All right, Brandon Scott, Ron Hughley here. Look, man,
I
I
can't believe it. It's taking
I
this long.
I
It's
I,
taking this long.
I know, and it took this. This is what had to happen. This is what had to occur to get us here to do this thing. Well, we're on the B Block podcast to chop up the championship games. It was a pretty interesting Sunday. And look, man, I'm just gonna start with this. I know you got to be feeling pretty good. I know you got to be in good spirits. You and your people. The hometown team won, going to a second straight Super Bowl with a chance to win a second straight Super Bowl. Could be the third of the Patrick Mahomes era, which is still pretty, pretty fresh, pretty young, I would say, as far as Pat goes. Got the best offensive play caller in football. I think I'm making a really good argument after the day for the best defensive play caller in football. He's probably been that even before today. But I just got to tell you, man, I'm disappointed today. I'm disappointed in this outcome, if I'm honest with you, because I was rooting for the All Black Super Bowl, man. I had planted my flag in the Baltimore Detroit Super Bowl because I wanted to see what it was going to look like when we get to Vegas in a couple of weeks, or really not even a couple of weeks, a week from now, basically. When we get to Vegas for Super Bowl week for Radio Row, I wanted to see more Baltimore and Detroit characters. At least Detroit. We didn't get neither one of them, man. I was rooting for that. I'm gonna tell you, man, this game, y'all's game, when they came out with that choir, I thought about you too. I almost texted you. I was gonna say, man, look, when they had that choir sing the national anthem, I was gonna say, Ron, hey man, I don't like y'all chances, man. I like the vibes of the choir, but y'all overcame all of that, man. Killed my dreams a little bit.
Yeah, they tried it all. Listen, I in those events, and you're right. You would have saw the characters because it would have been the first. It'd have been the first one. Detroit, you'd have damn sure you'd have saw they would have all drugged themselves out there. The people who Martin Payne was really built around, they would have drugged themselves out there.
Yep.
Whoever went to school with Jalen Rose and Chris Webber, not them, but who they'd have been there. But the people who went to school with them, they would have drugged themselves out there. So yeah, it would have been man. Baltimore, they tried it all. They tried it all. They had Ray come out there. They had the choir. Hell,
Man.
they had Jonathan Ogden come out there. He ain't got nothing to say. Then when it was getting real low in the second half, they said, T Sizzle, come on, can you come and help us out? They tried to bring out Suggs out there. Anquan Bolden was waiting at the door of one of them. They brought them all out there. I think Johnny Unitas was out there. It did not matter. They couldn't handle him. And then I'm sure we'll break them down. And Dan Campbell, man, you just lost your team
Yeah.
the chance to go to the Super Bowl. You
Yeah.
just lost your team's chance to go to the Super Bowl. I just, and the crazy thing is listen, man, everything to the Niners, they did what they needed to do. Honest to God, I think m- more than much more than half the coaches in the league don't lose that game. Just don't lose that game.
Talking about the Lions game with the lead
Yeah,
with the
just
with the
don't lose.
17
Like
point
if you give him,
lead
you
in the
give him
third
that
quarter.
second half. Yep, you give him that second half and move the ball in the fashions that they moved the ball. Right, like they had some freak things occur, like the bounce off the helmet and catch from Ayuk, and then the fumble where the ball didn't get secured immediately. They had some things, but they got into field goal range under 50 yards twice that could have just continued to one could have put game pressure on the Niners
Yeah.
and kind of get you breathing again, and you're like, all right, we've extended this lead, your defense feel better, or then tied it at 27 for a 47-yard field goal and take the deep breath. But then you're like, no, man, you gonna clip them. Man, it's 24-10. You just take another field goal, man. But no, man, you going for 4th and 2, man. And that just drags everybody down when you don't take those points. Like the contrast between the two games, I truly believe, Brandon, like Andy just kind of shut it down a bit aggressiveness wise in the second half because he just played to his team, played to the defense, and just said the most important thing for me to do is not turn it over and try to run this clock down because the likelihood of Baltimore scoring twice without help is really, really, really difficult in the game the way my defense is playing. Dan just went the other way. Dan stepped out in the second half like it was zip zip.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have a 17-point lead. So man, it was a crazy game. Two games that were one possession, but boy, it kind of feel a lot different.
All right. So since the Niners Lions game is freshest on the mind, let's go to that one first. We can come back to your game, to the Chiefs Ravens game in a second, but I want to hit on this point on Dan Campbell because this is part of the reason why I'm rooting for the Lions too. It's not just the black cities, but obviously, Baltimore's got the black quarterback with Lamar. Detroit, Dan Campbell coming there, as we know, hiring a bunch of brothers. They got Houston's own Aaron Glenn as the defensive coordinator. They got the black GM, Brad Holmes. So I like the whole get down over there. And I like, honestly, how aggressive Dan Campbell has been.
I was rooting for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I love how he has turned into somewhat of the opposite of the stereotype, the meathead, sort of stuck in his ways, old school kind of football, like kind of how he might look, the judge the book by his cover. It's like, nah, he's talking all of that meathead stuff, but he's also like, really forward thinking and progressive in the way that he views the game. But I also thought that bit him in the ass in this game, man. And Greg Olsen was trying to talk his way through this. You could hear him on the Fox broadcast saying, like, man, you can question the decision, but it's still the right decision. I'm like, yeah, no, I like it. But then when it doesn't work, what are you left with? Look at the result that you're left with. You're playing desperately in the last couple of minutes, trying to manage your timeout, see if you're going to have enough timeouts to score twice within a couple of minutes. And that's all because you're down. And how many points do you lose the game by? Three. When you could have just kicked the damn field goal. Like you look at this, man. They've got those two possessions when you count the turnover. They've got two possessions where they get 0 yards. All right. They got the turnover on one, and then they go 3 and out where they get just the 1 yard. Bracketing that are the turnovers on downs. It's going forward on fourth. That's how you lose a double-digit lead in the third quarter to a team that's been to the Super Bowl. And this was actually my takeaway on both of the games, kind of an overarching theme for me, Ron, was that both teams that won looked like teams that had been to the Super Bowl before, and both teams that lost very much did not look like teams that had ever been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, in different ways, and we'll get to the self-destruction of the Baltimore Ravens and the meltdown they had repeatedly,
absolutely,
in that game. But in this one, it was the coach. Like I guess it's analytics. I don't know, man. I get the feel there was a part of, hey, with Dan, I'm coming in aggressive. We're gonna go and win it, and we ain't gonna go and just try to coach to not lose it. I feel like it was more than analytics. It was some of that in it too. We got a way we play, and this is what we're gonna do. Well, you better be right, because what analytics doesn't take into account, B.Scott, and you know it, is the feeling of how the entire thing in the whole stadium and to the team shifts when you. Because your defense, really, to be honest, if you come out, you're up 17, you're up 27-7, and your defense comes out and they give up a field goal like they did, that's a win. That's a win because they got to come all the way back. That's a win, and they're not stopping your offense very much. And then you come and you march it right down and get right into field goal range, and there's a decision, because if you miss it, if you go for it and don't get it like Dan did, what analytics doesn't take into account is how that changes everything with everybody in the stadium. Like Chase Young said, the biggest play of the game that changed everything for him was that fourth down they didn't get. And it changed the exact way how the Niners felt on the sideline, the fans felt in there, and how the Lions felt. Then that's when the nerves started to roll through and the panic started to roll through. And then the downhill slide of just unfortunate incidents and bad luck just occurred. And it just started a snowball effect. And I mean, before you know it, right, it's tied. It's
Yeah.
tied before you know it. And analytics can't take that into account because, bam, you come in and you make that field goal. You kind of bring it down, you shut it down, and you look up. We fought really hard, and hell, we're halfway through the third quarter, more than halfway through the third quarter, and we've made no ground.
Yeah.
We've made no ground since the half.
And see, I want to separate the two different fourth downs because I thought the first one was defensible because they were basically trying to put the game away in their minds, trying to put the game away. They're still up 24-10 at that point. They are in San Francisco territory now. That obviously is the argument for the field goal, right?
They're at the 28.
It's a makeable field goal at the 28, or a reasonable field goal at the 28. But also they're going for the kill shot there. I can respect that. That to me is going back to your point about the mentality, which is again, I think you're bringing up a good point about saying this, how it's more not just analytics, kind of how I was alluding to earlier, but also just a mentality like this is what we're about. This is how we're going to approach the game. I thought that was the right way to play it on that first one, and I respected it. But then the game plays on, right? Like the game goes on, and then later on, like you need a field goal on that second fourth down.
Now you can tie the game.
Right.
It's either tie the game
Yeah.
or what.
Yeah, so like both of these are not created equal, and I don't feel like I feel like even if you have an approach and a mentality about how you want to approach the game, you should also account for how different these two scenarios were. So I was good with the first, or at least understood the first one. I can see how you want to argue the other way, but I understood the first one. That second one, I was like, man, you don't want them points. You don't want them points up there on the road with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Come on, man.
Well, and not to bring up bad thoughts, because I got a little feel of this, a little Bill O'Brien in him is, at the end of the half, what hell, you didn't want to be a hard ass then, right? Like you didn't go for the kill shot then, you kicked it, didn't you? Hell, you were inside the 3. Go for the throat then too. Well, don't turn around and then like, hey, we kick it there. There was a smart play there that made sense to go up 17. Here, go here. Right, like and be consistent with it. Like it just to me felt like no rhyme or reason at times, and he's just like go 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 go. Like you need somebody to sit there and think with you. But I mean, I guess, man, I guess to him and to kind of listen to him in the post game is we wouldn't be here if I wasn't making some of them decisions this year, and I get that, but boy, man. 24-7 to get to the Super Bowl, 24-10 halfway through the third quarter. I mean, you would hope that would elicit you to start thinking just a tad differently. Just a tad differently.
Yeah, I feel like though for all of that, for all of the celebrating of the aggressiveness, and I even just did it here on the show, I do think that that's an area that they got to look themselves in the mirror at, like, and say, okay, we've established this culture, this mindset, this mentality, but is it time to kind of reel it back a little bit? Do we need to reel it back a little bit and actually kind of think it through? Because I do think that decision cost them the game, cost them a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, at that point, I mean, we're talking about game management at this point. When you have a double-digit lead on the road in the NFC Championship game, the only way to really lose it is to mention, like you mentioned Bill O'Brien earlier, the only way to really lose it, and we understand that there was some fool's gold with the lead that they had, that the Texans had several years back against the Chiefs. But the only way to lose it is to mismanage it.
Yeah, but just in the Campbell comparison, at one point he felt like, all right, man, we're in it aggressive, and then the next point it's like, no, we're gonna chill. Listen, I love the story, and I think obviously they're heading in the right direction, and they're a much better success rate than somebody like a Brandon Staley who was just doing it all the time and failing. But I just look at Dan and I mean it's like he just poked a hole in the kite every
Yeah.
time, every time he did it. But and I think that's the other part. Real quick, now I think about it, they're like fourth and twos. Like one part of of their um their identity that Dan has created, this culture is, hey, we're aggressive, we're going for the throat. But the other part is we'll run it down your throats. We want to run the football. We want to, and on those fourth and twos, they never ran. Neither one of them did they run it. The fourth and twos, they never just reared back. And I've seen them run. I've seen them run on 4th and 5 and pick it up against the Chargers, and they never ever ran it, which is
Yeah.
also part of their identity, which was strange.
And you know what was also strange when they ran it on. So it was that last drive of the game, basically the drive that ended the game.
Oh yes,
And they ran it. I want to say it was a third down, maybe where they run it with David Montgomery. But Olsen points out that they don't go with a heavy package; they go with 3 wide receivers out there. But it's also obvious that they're running it because they got David Montgomery back there in the game, and that's when they ended up having to burn that timeout that they wanted to keep, right? So they could maybe avoid the onside kick at the end, but they ended up having to use it because they didn't get it. And I'm like, man, so now y'all want to run it. Now y'all want to run it when it's an obvious running situation, but it also is a detriment to you to run the ball because you need to be either scoring or getting out of bounds to stop the clock. You can't afford to be tackled in bounds anymore. And here you are because you don't know when to kick a field goal, and all of the shenanigans that has this domino effect on the game.
Yeah, and I do want to get another point for we switch off this game. I wonder where you do stand on this, and I just want to say this is Brock Purdy's a very difficult one for me because I don't think that Brock Purdy should be talked about in the way that the other two quarterbacks in the AFC that we're talking about. Like I don't think he should be in the conversation with the elites of the game.
Hey, look, and this is just to be clear. I'm gonna let you finish. This is the B Block podcast. You my guest. You're my guy. He does not have to be in that conversation on this show. Just to be clear,
Yeah,
and I'm
no,
gonna let you make your point, but just as far as narratives are set on this podcast, he does not have to be in that conversation.
no, I'm not saying that. I just want to know. Like what, like how much and what and how often does he have to do the things that he is doing for the conversation and narrative to be different on him? That's all I'm saying is, right? Like I do not like when I watch Brock Purdy, I do not think that he uh, is in any way affecting his team like Josh Allen or Pat or Lamar does. But like he makes huge plays for this team. That he makes huge plays that if any of those guys made, it wouldn't be just saying, man, that damn Debo Samuel or that Christian McCaffrey or that Trent Williams. So I'm not saying that we are there, but I'm just saying, like, how much does he have to do before it is ever thought like, hey man, he just got them dudes. Like I just want to know, like, if he just destined to never ever, even if he does this for like 4 years in a row, like the numbers and what he's doing. Because today he had runs, he made big throws, he made big plays. I mean that avoided sack and the throw to use check on the sideline that he got away. That ain't just no Chad Pennington game manager play. But that is my thing is like if is he just destined to be Brock Purdy, the guy with the supporting cast? Is
So
that what it's?
no, I'll tell you. Yes, unless okay, I'll tell you how he gets from here to there to the conversation that you're talking about. If the 49ers, let's say they beat your Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and it is the beginning of a run similar to what the Chiefs have been on up until this point. So let's say he wins a couple of Super Bowls, like the 49ers, I should say, win a couple of Super Bowls. Brock Purdy's the quarterback. Let's say they go to another and they lose one like the Chiefs did. All right, he didn't have to win any MVPs because I'm just going to say this. I don't think he's talented enough to win an MVP. Now, he might win one by being the quarterback on the best team in the NFL like he almost did this year. That could happen, so I'm not going to rule it out. But like the way we're going to talk about him on this show, he's not that kind of player. And this is why I'm saying it. Like he will never be, I don't think, talented enough to be on the level of those guys. Like he will never match the talent level of a Mahomes, a Josh Allen. I don't even think he's necessarily as talented as the guy who's on the other side of him today in Jared Goff, who he outplayed because he made the big plays late when he needed them, right? But I don't even think he's as good as that guy. Okay. But I do think as someone who is competent and calm and just like fortunate enough to be on a good team, like to not knows how to not mess it up, but also has the calmness and the ability to make plays when he needs to. Like I think a guy like that can sort of ride the coattails of the stacked roster for however long they can keep all of these guys that they're spending money on, for however long he can ride the wave. I think he can be kind of sort of unnecessarily in that conversation because he's winning, even though he's not as good as those guys. I think that's where we're headed if they win. Like he can be in the conversation as long as they win. But like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen has not been to a Super Bowl, and we talk about him like he's the greatest thing, like he's right there with Mahomes. Why is that? Because we can see it. You know, Joe Burrow went to one, but we can see it, right? Like it's the same thing with Lamar. He lost. He had, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But he had his issues in the game. We can see it, right? You know, so like that. I think it's an eye test thing of hey, you know, this guy is not as good as these other guys, but he's not getting in the way, and he's stepping up and making plays when he's asked to make plays.
And see, that's what I'm saying is he's got to be above not just in not getting in the way. Like when you say all the other ones, like I honest to God, I don't like in my mind, and when I watch him, I guess and I wonder if there are biases. I don't believe he's as good as Joe Burrow, but him and Joe Burrow are kind of, with the exception of maybe the offensive line stuff. But him and Joe Burrow both have had great targets, great people around to throw the ball to, and like they're not also as talented as those other guys you're talking. But then at 4,280 yards, 270 per 31 touchdowns to 11 interceptions and 70% completion almost. Like, I mean, like if he keeps rolling this thing up, this is more than just game manager. And then
No, hey, look, I'm over here talking, but Brock Purdy, that one thing about him, he doesn't think that he's a game manager. That throw across his body or across the field
Jennings caught that.
Jennings went in one arm that thing. That's one of the best catches, playoff catches that I've seen in years, probably. It's up there, and that throw is a no. That throw is not one that a game manager makes, right? And probably not one that he should have made. But that is the will. That's kind of what I'm talking about too. Kind of the willingness to go out there and make a play, but in the meantime, he's not getting in the way. He's not a turnover machine, even though he has make some questionable decisions.
I think he just has to win so much that people just don't like. He doesn't give him he's winning so much that no one can say anything. Like I think it's probably what Brady did, that he won so much because Brady's not as talent. Like as we looked at it, it took, I don't know what it is that we took, but for some reason there was like a real switch real quick from, you know what, Brady's arm is actually pretty strong. When it was always, he doesn't have a strong arm. No, you know what, Brady's arm is pretty strong. So I feel like that's what Brock has to do to win up. But I just know these last two games, man, he had the game-winning drive over the Packers, and in the midst of it, he had to pick up a first down because George Kittle dropped a ball that led to him throwing a dime to Ayuk against the Packers that really helped win that game. So I mean, I listen. I know in the Super Bowl when we get to, like, the Chiefs have severely the quarterback advantage. I just look at Brock Purdy as, boy, when Brock plays a half bad, right? Like, Brock's first half was probably as poor as Mahomes, but Mahomes' second half. But
Yeah.
nobody's gonna talk about Mahomes' second half. Like, no,
He did the same thing. Brock did the same thing against the Packers
yeah,
the week before, where he was terrible in the beginning and good late.
yeah.
Kind of been his thing lately.
So we'll see. But I mean, dude is
But
making plays, man.
my thing on Brock is, and I'm not trying to take away from him. I think this is really a credit to him. You're a quarterback. You get drafted even with the last pick in the draft, but you step on the scene. They give you an opportunity. They got a mess at the quarterback situation. Got an older guy that they're trying to get out. The younger guy that they really wanted to be the guy is not the guy. And here you are, just as a throw-in, really, as the last pick of the draft. But you step on the scene and you see, oh, they got Brandon Ayuk. They got Debo Samuel. Trent Williams is protecting me. Brandon Ayuk. They traded for Christian McCaffrey. They've invested all of this in the defense and the defensive line, which we can talk about in a second too. I'm going to mention that. But they got all of these pieces. Man, how could I not ball? And you view yourself, okay, because again, Brock Purdy views himself differently than what we're talking about him. You view yourself as a baller. You're like, oh, I got this. I got this. This is not me being the number one overall pick going into a crappy situation. This is me being the last pick and going into perhaps the best situation that I possibly can in football with, a top two play caller in football. I'd probably put Shanahan only behind Andy.
Or
And
McVay, one of the two.
McVay. Yeah, I'd say that they're right there together, right behind Andy in the same conversation. And you put me in this situation. Yeah, I got to go out there and ball. But this is my thing about San Francisco. I don't think Purdy, like, for all the conversation about Purdy, he ain't the problem. And I think that's the best thing you can say about him is he's the solution in so much as that he's not the problem. The problem and the concern I would have right now, and I'm interested in how you look at this going into the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, looking at the 49ers, man, that defense shows up here and there, but just has not been what I feel like it was built to be. Now, they stepped up here in this game toward the end there at times. But I just, I look at their pass rush. I know Bosa did get to golf today, but it just the Bosa Young, just the whole, Hargrave, like, I know he had a penalty today. Like, the whole thing today, or I should say over the last month or so, has not really, to me, looked like what I feel like it needs to be for them to win a title, because they don't have the other thing, the Mahomes factor, the Josh Allen factor at quarterback. I know they got all of those weapons, but they need that defense to be something that it has not been over the last month or so.
Yeah, I think the big thing to me is and it clearly makes everything easier is, man, that you can just run the ball on them in a way that I mean,
Did you see David Montgomery just doing his thing?
who was it? Montgomery, Gibbs. I mean, it didn't. I mean,
Whoever, yeah.
when they weren't fumbling, they were, and of course that just sets everything, especially with Warner and Greenlaw, those linebackers. But then really up front, like, that's what it is, and that, man, when you run the football the way that they did, the Lions did, the way the Packers did, and other teams, like, you can really, really, really control the game and hurt them, and then that slows the pass rush down. And that's the other part is in the secondary. Charvarius Ward is pretty good, but, like, it's a deal where almost with some of these teams, if you can block them, like, you got a chance to create some separation in space. Like tonight, man, and I'm sure they'll go back and look at it, but they were also assisted even in the second half where they really got on a run, they were also assisted. Obviously, not just by the refusal of Dan Campbell to take points that were there, but they were assisted by drops in this game. Like even the one that Dan went for, like Reynolds, he had multiple drops in this game where he created separation. The ball was put right
One of
on.
them on fourth down. One of them was the fourth down play,
One of them
right?
was the fourth down play, yeah,
Yeah,
and then another one across. Like, and these were big plays. Like these were big plays that were out there, and they could not handle Jamison Williams. I believe he had a touchdown that I think went through his hands in
he
that
did.
fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And then he made that other catch, but like they're still very fortunate that they didn't give up more points that they gave up, because like we know it, man. They get the fumble, which looks like it was from the jump, an issue on the handoff that really assisted them. But like to me, and that was the thing with the Lions. If they just took a deep breath, I'm like if they just get a drive, like they can't stop them. Like if they, but they just
Yeah.
stuff
They,
would,
they,
would
they were
happen.
they were running it, Ron. They were running the
That's the
ball
biggest
at
part.
will.
And
That offensive line.
Aaron Jones did it the week before. Like that's the big thing with the Niners is they don't they're unable to stop the run like we're accustomed to seeing, and then I don't think they cover on the back end not nearly as well, and
They
not
don't.
and they're not helped as much by their pass rush because the run game is so effective that they got to halt a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really intrigued by the matchup, or really more than anything, intrigued by the 49ers kind of leaking a little bit. Seeming like they're leaking a little bit, even though they've been the best team in the NFC, I think, all year long. Even when they had that rough stretch where I want to say they lost like 3 straight games or something like that. Like
Yeah,
they had a
they had a
rough
lot of
stretch there.
injuries there. They
Yeah,
had a lot of injuries there, and I think that's probably what
yeah.
they're hanging their hat on. But defensively, like they've had some struggles. The Ravens got them pretty good late in the season. They've had some interesting games.
All right, so kind of a theme today, a theme of the day of Sunday, Championship Sunday, was meltdowns. Meltdowns. I think we just talked about the Lions meltdown. It was mostly their coach. I think the Ravens meltdown, Ron, was the players. I don't want to pile on Zay Flowers, but bad look, bad.
Good
This
my
dude,
goodness.
this was outrageous. Okay, and I don't believe in taunting penalties. I think it's ridiculous, but it does exist, and by the letter of the law, that would what happened would constitute a taunting penalty. Now, for me, if I was the ref out there, I just would never call a taunting penalty because it just would never register with me that's taunting. I'm just not wired that way, so it wouldn't have happened with me. But you get that takes away 15 yards from a play.
Yeah, yeah. You can't push the guy down, stand over him, and flex
You
and
can't.
throw and spin the ball down.
You
Like
can't do that. If
you
you
can't.
know if you know a taunting penalty exists or a taunting rule exists,
You
you
might slide
absolutely
by with
can't.
one of them. You might
One of
slide
them.
by. You
Yeah,
can't combine spin the ball right there on him, but push him down first,
yeah.
spin the ball on him, flex over him. It's just,
Who is the ref that they bring in on CBS? Whoever the ref is that
uh,
they bring in, he said the
yeah,
same
yeah,
thing. He's like, yeah, you can get away with that push, but then he spun the ball and then he
yeah,
flexed on him on
Gene.
top of it. It was a little bit extra.
Yeah,
It
it
was a little
stood
bit
over the
extra.
top of him. Yeah, Gene said. Yeah, Gene's
Yeah,
territory said you
G's
can't.
territory. That's
Yeah,
right.
you can't. Yeah, you can't do that.
Hey, but then run, but check it out. He fumbles the ball at the goal line. Okay, turnover. And gets on the sideline mad.
Hot.
Damn it. And damn it, you should be mad. You just screwed up twice and got the nerve to cut his finger. Had the nerve to cut his finger, man. 3 boneheaded things. It's like, I know you're a rookie, but my goodness, man. Like, this is, and he's a playmaker. Like, I'm not, but my God, man. Like,
I'll give him. Listen, the
my God.
fumble was more of
Trying to make a play.
Legarius Need. Just
Yeah.
it's a travesty that he is not, at the very least, a Pro Bowler. He has been the best corner in football all year long. Go look at the receivers that he has covered. Like Zay Flowers, and many people think, well, this is the first time a number one. Well, Zay Flowers is unique in where he lines up. So they just where he lines up, they couldn't just follow him. Now he was on Zay Flowers on that big 50-yard play. Obviously, he was the one that he made the tackle and got the Tawny penalty over. But he's just timing there was amazing. Went to punch it out, read it, was a big time play. So that one, the other two were just idiotic, but that one in the middle was just was just a a tough play made by him going hard, and then L'Jarius Sneed stepping up and making a huge play. But my man, for me, man, I felt like it started with a panic at 6:48 in the first quarter, and it started with the panic, and you're going for it 7-0 at your 29 or 31-yard line. Now it worked, but like this is where we are. First quarter, we got the number one defense in the world. We got the best. I mean, so-called the number one defense in the world. We got this offense. Judge, you going for it on fourth and one at 6:48? Oh,
Yeah.
you already like I'm not gonna lie to you. One of the things, and this is now 2 weeks in a row. I thought that the mystique of the Patrick Mahomes Chiefs offense had worn off. That like there would be times where the Chiefs would walk into games and they would dictate what you do because the race was we cannot get down by 2 scores because if we ever get down by more than 8 points, we know we cannot stop them consistently. We're not going to stop them 2 times in a row. We're not. And if they just keep getting up by two scores, they'll just keep building on it and building on it. So we have to. So we got to do stuff. And teams will go for it crazily and put themselves. You would think it'd be Dan Campbell's out there. We'll go for it. I thought the mystique was done
Mm-mm.
last week. Last week, the Bills lost their mind and then go for a fake punt in the fourth quarter. They're at their own 30,
Yeah.
out of nowhere, and then you're first from
With
there on
with DeMar Hamlin at that
with
too.
DeMar. And from there on, I said, "Oh my God, they are like you can feel the tension already." If you're in now, they made the play, and Lamar made a play, and then he got an off schedule play where a matchup was bad, and they got a touchdown that was good. But I was just like, "Oh, this is like they're already getting concerned and nervous." And from that play on, you said it earlier. One thing maybe we didn't take into account, and I say we, and I say as the bulk of the people who I've repeatedly watched say the Ravens were going to win, and that is most people is like I guess we didn't take into account of what would look like if they face some level of adversity and the panic that would roll through,
Yeah.
because Kyle Van Noy is coming up in front of officials and headbutting people. Somebody just punched Mahomes in the face on on an accident.
That looked like an accident.
I'm not.
He was going for the ball.
It was
But
an accident,
he
but I
did
mean,
clobber. He did
he
clobber
leveled
him
them.
though.
But I'm
He
just
did.
saying, man. I mean, they got 3 roughing the passer penalties, and none of them are arguments. Like
Yeah.
Davion Clowney hit him right in the face. Didn't have to. I mean, it just and then just the meltdowns, as you said, the whole Zay Flower thing, and then Todd Monken lost his job. At no point, or lost his mind. At no point did this game say, hey man, we just gonna shut this running the football thing down.
Yeah.
This thing that we do. At no point did it ever say, like, hey man, we ain't gonna run the football. It was a 10-point game for the most part of it. And I mean, Gus Edwards got you 3 carries and Justice Hill got you 3. Your 2
Yeah.
running backs in this game totaled up 6. Hell, Lamar, he only ran at 8, and half of them were scrambles.
Yeah.
So they just lost their minds in this game.
But even even their pass game didn't seem to play right into Spagnola's hands. And look, I know you know Spags' work as well as anybody, but I mean, I'm looking at Monken and this was being pointed out on the broadcast. I'll give Tony Romo credit for this. Like, even their pass plays were too long developing. Like it was like, hey, where is some of the quick game? There was really none of that. And it seemed to really have Lamar like having to run for his life a little bit. I just didn't feel like Todd Monken had a great game plan at all in this game, and that's kind of surprising considering how well he's done throughout the season. But that stood out to me. But also really like, here's what I didn't account for with the Chiefs. And I know they got a top defense, top two defense. I know that their offensive line is really good. I know about the Chiefs. But so much of them that gets talked about is Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelsey. Snead gets mentioned there, a little bit now
Chris
because of
Jones. Chris Jones.
Chris Jones. Obviously, that those are probably their Hall of Famers. Jones, Mahomes, Kelsey, and Reid, and then like I said, Snead gets mentioned a little bit more now this year. But honestly, man, just overall, how physical of a football team the Chiefs are, I don't think gets nearly enough credit. Because look, man, I watched closely this Ravens team bully the Texans the week before, a team that was just not ready to play on that level. And then in the same exact environment, the following week, a team that honestly just was built to play on that level, that was built to push and pull with them, they were able to whoop them boys up front, man. And I was not expecting that. I was not expecting them to be able to win up front the way that they did.
Yeah, listen, I have said this. I think, and I've talked about it on the podcast that I do stuff when I cover the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have had the best defense in football all season,
Yeah, that
uh,
secondary is lights
and
out right
that's
now.
one. And then that's the other part is their front. They can get pressured. Like they had a specific plan to rush and how they were going to rush Lamar. And that was, you don't give up lanes. And they played him before, and Spags has played him. This is the fifth time Spags has played him since he's been in Kansas City. And they're not going to. Now they missed a couple, right, that led to some of their bigger plays, right? Like they weren't ever going to make anything on time. And here was the thing, and the Texans really fought this last week in the second half is, all right, you're going to blitz and you're going to bring extra. But what the Chiefs did, and I think they're able to do, because we hear everybody talk about the best receiving cores and all this. The Chiefs have the best set of corners, like not just set. I mean, their entire core of corners. They've got four corners that are starting caliber corners. Their top two corners, one was a first team all pro slot, and then the other is L'Jarius Sneed. And you've already heard me talk about him, right? L'Jarius Sneed, right? Who held AJ Brown to 1 for 8, who held Justin Jefferson under 30 yards. Like this dude is the real deal. When you have those two, and then the guys behind them, see, they didn't even have to guard him with Odell. Odell was being covered by like Joshua Williams, another one of their corners that's not even one of their top guys. But what he's able to do and what the Texans did not do is they took away the short stuff, because Sneed and McDuffie, who is I mean, he stride for stride with every one of those receivers every time at multiple breakups. They took away the tight stuff, and then he has cover two behind him, and there's always some deep. And I'm willing to bet where the accuracy issues really rise for Lamar is the further he has to throw it down the field. And that to me is what they tried to make him do, and rush the quarterback and make him do that off his spot. And I think that was really the game plan. And like you said, man, up front, like the Chiefs, and this is something that wasn't talked about. It was a disrespect all week how many were just saying the only reason why the Chiefs would even be discussed in this game is because of 15. And
Hey,
yeah,
hey! Look, before you finish that point, I'm gonna admit to you, I saw you tweet about this, okay, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I had more than half of the numbers that you put on there, but you put a couple of numbers where I was like guessing. I was like 56 is that Carl Lopton? because I knew who 10 was. That's Pacheco, obviously. I knew you. I didn't have all of the numbers on there though. You had some
Yeah.
of them on there like they was obvious ones.
Well, I mean, like 52 is a all-pro,
Okay, yeah, okay.
and Creed Humphrey.
52 is good. I just 50. I'm like, which one? Oh, yeah, the center. Okay, all right.
56 has almost had a 10 and a half sacks this year, and you saw him today.
Yeah,
Was
he kicked
all
ass.
over. Was
Yeah.
all over. Yep, like, and then they just have their defensive line is they got so many guys. Like hell, even Charles Omenihu, who was just rolling. We'll
Yeah.
see. Hope to God, we'll see if he's able to go
Yeah.
moving forward. But he steps out the game. Mike Dana, I didn't put him on there, but Mike Dana, he's got 7 sacks on the season. Like they got dudes up front where they could rotate this dude. Their best run defender up front was not there. And Derek Noddy, he's not even available the last week.
That's right.
They didn't have Willie Gay. They didn't like that's what the part was laughable is like they kept coming in and said the only reason why this is a conversation is because of 15, like Chris Jones isn't alive, like Travis Kelce isn't walking this earth, like L'Jarius Sneed and McDuffie aren't going to be entering the game, like them guys aren't there, like Rashee Rice isn't coming to play in this thing, and everybody had created such a gap in these teams and these rosters, except for the coach and the quarterback, which we all know one are the two most important things and can affect the game the most. But for some reason, people waltzed into this game in their mind, not thinking to themselves, well, hold on, Todd Malkin has a week, and Steve Spagnuolo with these bullies and these dogs that he has at his disposal has a week. This is the guy who took down Tom multiple times in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Tom that was undefeated Tom. This is the guy that's been the D coordinator all these years. And I'm like, so y'all not taking that matchup into account. And I know Mike McDonald was coming along and was looking, but y'all not going to take Andy versus Mike McDonald. Like this is a team who predominantly likes to sit in a zone. And you got Andy, Mahomes, and Kelce, right?
Yeah.
And now we were led to believe this week that Kyle Hamilton was going to be the one to solve this Travis Kelce conundrum.
In fairness, let me say this. In fairness, your boy Travis Kelce truly has hopped into the time machine. Because in fairness to Kyle Hamilton, he was covering Travis Kelce. It just didn't matter worth a damn. Like the windows, the plays that Kelce was making, that was vintage. Kelce Mahomes.
He was getting separation, and he was. I'm just saying that we walked to this game, and Kyle Hamilton's going to be the one to
what about that back shoulder throw?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's Kyle Hamilton is going to be the one to solve the conundrum of Mahomes and Kelce. Like that's what people really got into their minds.
But that ain't no knock on Kyle Hamilton. The idea is, and this is a testament to Mahomes and Kelce. There might not be no solving when they own like that.
Well, I know this. That's the part that was blowing me away from people is that y'all think and listen, Kyle Hamilton was the best player on the field.
That's what I'm saying, man. If you was going to invent something to solve that, that's what it would look like. But
as long as he wasn't covering 87, he was the best player on the field when they took him off of that. But they had no answer for him. Like they talked about. All right, Lamar is going to give the Chiefs hell, and that Patrick hasn't seen a defense like this. And I mean, like I can rattle off, like everybody's rattling off the numbers for the Ravens, but nobody's rattling off the numbers for this Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense, literally in an NFL game, had a quarterback not complete a pass for the final 3 quarters of the game, and that quarterback has Devontae Adams at his disposal, and they couldn't get not a screen, not a slant, nothing. He could not complete a pass from quarter second, third, and fourth in a tight game. Couldn't complete one. The Chiefs have given up 27 points once. They've not given up more than 27 points. They've not allowed 7 points in the second half in 8 weeks, in 8 straight games. Like this team they haven't given up a 300-yard passer this year. They haven't. I mean, they're and the kind of funky things about the scoring is their scoring would have been better had Mahomes and Kadarius Toney hadn't combined for one pick six, or Mahomes had gotten himself a pick six, or the Raiders didn't score back-to-back defensive touchdowns in a 7-second span, that their scoring margin wouldn't be as high as it would be because the defense isn't on the field for those, but it still counts towards them. Like, this defense has been ridiculous all year long. And I know what they heard all week. They were motivated by, and listen, like, we can look at this and we all know football, but we're gonna sit here and act like that safeties and linebackers control the game defensively better than a defensive tackle and Chris Jones and corners who can shut off the water. Like, those are the two most important. But how much could Smith and Queen dominate this game? They couldn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't from the position they're playing. I mean, Matabike was their best. Matabike was their best choice. And then in the second half, he started kicking ass and doing stuff. But I was just blown away all week. It's like, this is the best way that I could put it, B.Scott. And I know I'm blaming, but I don't give a damn.
No,
Uh,
that's what this podcast is for, baby.
I really believe, because the Chiefs are on TV so much, and this year, if you think about the games that stick into our minds about the Chiefs, and almost every one of their performances on TV when they got primetime games or standalone games were either poor performances, lackluster, or some sort of a receiver had a play that you won't forget, and then the worst performance we've seen in the Andy Reid era, and that was against the Raiders. The first game, Kadarius Toney drops a ball and gets a pick six. They lose to the Lions. That's the first game everybody sees, and it starts right there. Then there's the Eagle game, MVS. How about my dog, MVS?
How
How
about
about my
MVS
dog,
stealing the
MVS?
game? I was gonna get to that.
He
Your
drops the
boy,
ball. He drops the ball
hey,
against the Eagles. That
yeah,
one is in our mind. I feel like he has not worn off. He had 3 drops this season, but you would think he has 11. Like that game, the Packers game was on Sunday Night Football, a lackluster performance, and they lost that game. The Raiders, they got completely embarrassed. But then when you look at the Ravens standalone games, they won Christmas night against this 49ers team and beat the hell out of them, and they beat the hell out of the Lions. I think everybody thought that team was walking in, not the team that had that game against the Colts, not the team that had that game against the Browns, not the team that lost to Kenny Pickett, not that team, not the defense that lost to Kenny Pickett,
don't dare,
or or,
don't
or,
dare, don't dare bring that up. I brought that up on the internet, and people was like, "Oh, you don't watch the
or
games." I'm
Gardner
like,
Minshew. They
okay,
didn't see that. They saw the team that put 56 on the Dolphins. They thought that team was rolling in, and the team that we saw blow it against the Eagles and the Lions were walking in. And listen, man, it was like, if they gave out an MVP, obviously it would go to Kelsey. Kelsey was the player of the game, because in the second half, like, this offense didn't really do much. It was the defense, and the defense has carried this team all year long, and they have much more than just Patrick Mahomes. It was just a travesty. I bet we don't hear that as much this week.
yeah, I think it is that Baltimore did play really well against good teams. And aside from those few games that you and I just mentioned, those games were the outliers in their season. Like, otherwise, they were mostly dominant. And then they've got the MVP, and Lamar was playing this, I don't want to say new brand of football, but seemingly a more advanced brand of quarterback in this MVP season. And I think all of that coming together, and then some fatigue, I think also with the Chiefs, made it really easy to underrate or overlook the fact that the Chiefs, and this is this is what the realization that I came to, and I think I already knew this, but just from watching the game, the Chiefs, quite frankly, have the best quarterback of this generation, and possibly ever. the best offensive play caller of this generation, and certainly in the game today, and possibly ever. And I think the best defensive play caller. I'm not gonna say of his generation, but in the game right now, certainly in the conversation for the best defensive play caller in the game.
Outside of Bill
And
Belichick, right now, I would probably put
and
Spags behind
Bill
him.
and Bill doesn't really get to be in the conversation because he hasn't coached a relevant team in 4 years. So it's like he doesn't even count. So yeah, and I'm with you on that. But and then on top of this, I was gonna say when you started mentioning Jones and Snead, it is unfair that the Chiefs could at once have all of those things that I mentioned: the best quarterback, the top offensive play caller, arguably the top defensive play caller. So
Mm-mm.
sorry about that. To me,
No,
it's
no.
unfair. To me, it's unfair. To me, it's unfair to be that talent rich. And I think it's really easy to overlook when you have a player the caliber of a Patrick Mahomes, when you have a coach like when you have you have a Travis Kelsey, you've got the greatest tight end. I didn't even mention Travis Kelsey. You've got the greatest tight end, arguably of all time, right? Certainly if not one, two, but right there, probably one at this point. To me, it's just it is an embarrassment, truly. And I think I was overlooking Spags and all of this, but to me, it's truly an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, coaching quarterback and their coaching staff, like, even Nagy gets on my nerves, but like their coaching staff has been through so much, and Andy and Spags together. And I mean, if you just like when they talk about the teams, and it's like, they got one all first team all pro on offense, and it's Joe Tooney, and he didn't play today. They had to bring in Nick Allegretti. So their all pro guard wasn't able to go against this defensive line that people thought was going to eat them, get ate alive. Willie Gay, who was supposed to be the spy and the speediest linebacker they had, and they missed him today. I don't think that the first touchdown happens if Willie Gay is in the game, because Willie Gay is the closest thing that the Chiefs have to Christian Harris, right? That has the speed and can kind of cut him off a little bit. And they had Leo Chanel, and God bless his soul. He's a hard downhill linebacker from Wisconsin that gives it everything he's got. But I mean, he couldn't get Lamar on the ground, right? But they go without him, their number one run stuffer in a game where you're facing the number one run offense in the league, and Derek Nottie. So I mean, they have guys even missing the depth that they're able to bring to the table. And listen, the Chiefs, like they gave real reason to doubt during the middle parts of the season. Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I got no problem with people picking the Ravens in this game. It was just the discounting of the only reason why this team, and I know you probably already have them slided in a dynasty. We look at dynasties differently. They got to win this one. To me, then that's the third one, and I would look at them as a dynasty. But this run with this team and these guys that are all in their prime, and to just say the only chance they have against this team that hasn't proved anything was because of 15, and that was very disrespectful. And then I heard many accounts, boy, this could get away from them. Like they could get blown out. Like the Chiefs could get blown
Yeah,
out. I
yeah, I
heard
didn't see
that,
that.
and like I heard Chris Rose ask MGD on NFL Network the night that the Chiefs beat the Bills, what do the Chiefs need to do to keep from getting blown out in Baltimore next week? I heard other people like Skip, Keyshawn said it could get away from them. I heard I mean I heard a lot. I heard somebody on Fox Sports Radio driving this weekend say 21 of 22, the Ravens have the advantage. 21 of 22. Like this thing could get ugly. Jason McIntyre, I got him by two touchdowns. Colin Cowherd, I got them. I think they're going to win by more than touchdown. It's their time. Wilbon. Oh, they didn't win them all. All these like blowouts. To me, like that's crazy talk. Like nerds, I don't care how good you felt about the Utah Jazz. You never thought they were going to sweep the Bulls. I can see you saying that you're going to pick them to win in 6 or 7. You ain't walking in saying they're going to sweep Jordan in his prime. You ain't going to tell me that they're going to blow out Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game in his prime when he's been blown out like 4 times. And when I say blowout, losses of 2 touchdowns or more 4 times in his life as an NFL quarterback, that he's about to walk in here and do this. And I've always said to myself, if they could get it together, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, with a defense that says, just can you get me to 21? They have held 17 of the 20 opponents they've faced this year under 20 points, 20 or under. They've held 17, and one of them was the Lions, who scored 21. That's one of the other 3. They've held them for 20 points or low. Like we were all of us were saying, I just know Andy, Patrick, and Travis can manage to figure out scoring 24. And hell, it was 17 today.
One name that we haven't even brought up in talking about the Chiefs is Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah. He's that physical part that you kind of talking about on the offensive side.
Yeah, man. Like I think about this, a little bit, and I was able to enjoy these games without thinking about the Texans or anything about like that. But when I do take that bird's eye view and take that Texans lens, I'm like, man, these are the things that the Texans are lacking. This level of physicality that frankly, all 4 of these teams I feel like bring to the table and brought to the table in this weekend in these games. I don't feel like the Texans are quite there on either side of the ball to really be in a conversation like that. And then think about the fact that each and every one of these teams can run it down your throat if they got to. Like the 49ers obviously have the best overall back in football in Christian McCaffrey. And on a slow day, he was a monster today. Like on a slow day, obviously the 2-headed running back situation that the Lions got with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Just mentioned Pacheco. And then, of course, the Ravens are they're sort of in their own, I think, lane because they have Lamar in addition to having capable running backs on top of it. So, I mean, and so obviously the Texans are not going to go like create a Lamar Jackson. They've got C.J. Stroud. I mean, they have to, I feel like, look at this weekend, look at these 4 teams and think, man, we've got to get a lot more physical and be able to impose our will on the team the way the Lions were up until they weren't, the way the 49ers have been known to do, I guess, up until recently at times, the way the Chiefs do with Isaiah Pacheco, and obviously the way the Ravens are able to with what they got going on.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the biggest flip for the Chiefs is, he's a guy, like he got 24 carries tonight. That's not, you know what I'm saying, for the Chiefs and Andy, who loves now they had the ball a ton. The time of possession wasn't even close in this, but he gets 28 touches in this game. 4 catches for 14 yards, and then his 24 carries for almost 70 with the touch. Right. So he and his yards per carry wasn't great, but his toughness, and especially early in that first half where he's just, he's giving them the business, right? And he's giving you 3, even his hard carries are 3, and it's 2nd and 7 or 2nd and 6 or something like that. So that, and the physicality he brings, man, like that was early, man, at the goal line, man, he walked into the end zone, physically walked into the end zone against this team up front with Roschon Smith, Queen, and those big boys. He just walked in standing, never went and got tackled. So his physicality, like he was, like you said, like Roschon Smith, he was not going to intimidate him because Roquan Smith, was not going to, or Queen, another one. Like, because this nut is running as hard as possible, knees, elbows, helmet, everything, and he's doing it every time. And no matter how hard you hit him, he is jumping up as fast as he can to get the ball to the official to get back and running back to the huddle. No matter how hard, like that messes with you, right? And
Hey,
then by the end of the game, you don't want to take that on as much as
hey,
you want.
I don't know if this is politically incorrect, but it's my podcast. I'm gonna say it. He run like he take Ritalin.
He lived like he
He
lived. He
he
lived like he do.
he run like he take Ritalin. Like he was one of them kids that you had to slow down a little bit. Like, hey, young man, slow down. Like you just like he. I mean, he is just one speed. But and I shouldn't say he's one speed because he's a pretty good. But yeah, I mean, mostly one speed. Yeah, it's wild. Let me ask you this before we get out of here, man. It's appreciate your time for one thing, but I gotta ask you this because I felt like when Usher was announced as the halftime show, I felt like you were not as enthused as I expect you to be. Now, check me on this if I'm wrong about this, but I'm curious if you've come around on this or are you just like because I feel like this is kind of like progress, that Usher, like we're not even batting the eye. It's like Usher is doing the Super Bowl down. Everybody else we had in recent years is like, hey man, we had Rihanna last year. I was with it, pregnant and all, man. I was down for it. So I'm trying to figure out, man. Are you not looking forward to this Usher set or what?
Yeah, when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh man, I'm not feeling that."
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what he does. I don't like everybody who sees him in Vegas. They puts listen. That's one thing. I think he is talented and can put on a show. I think he'll put on a show. I don't know. Maybe I was just feeling something a little harder. Maybe I just
For the Super Bowl?
yeah, man.
Harder?
I wanted like
They
something
had
that was.
Rihanna last year.
I know it. And then they had Dre the year before that. So like I was maybe
But they
something a
didn't
little.
have hard Dre. They had
But I
commercial
mean,
Dre.
but it was. I mean, I'm not. Well, listen, I'm not saying. I'm just harder than Usher.
Harder.
Like something like. Hopefully, he brings John out there. Maybe little John can help spice some of this up, or something. But I mean, I know he'll put on the show. He probably put on his roller skates. I know he does that in his show in Vegas. He probably put on his roller skates. I mean, I feel better about it. I mean, but when I first heard it, I was like, man, just let's let Kendrick have it by himself or something.
See,
Like let's.
to me, the thing that I like about it is that it being Usher to me guarantees that it can't be a bad show because Usher doesn't put
I would
on
agree
bad
with that.
shows.
I would agree
So
with
to
that.
me, that at the very least, I feel like we're gonna unless something really odd happens, I don't feel like we're gonna come away from it with like these like drastic critiques of the show of how bad it was. We might nitpick here and there depending on how it goes, but I feel like for one, it ensures that it's not going to be a bad show. My only criticism of it, or I would say like apprehension about it, is the Usher that I prefer and the era of Usher that I like most, I don't feel like
Yes.
it's gonna be the one that's gonna
Yeah.
be played on this set. Like I feel like we're gonna get a lot of confessions and post confessions Usher, which I think is great. Don't get me wrong. I think all of that is really great music. But I like the 8701 and prior Usher.
Mm.
So like, I don't think we're gonna get You Remind Me. I
Yeah.
don't think we're gonna get My Way, which I think are two of his top
Yeah.
5 or 6 songs, or at least in my personal favorites. I don't think he's gonna perform either one of those. That's the Usher that I prefer over, the the top 40 Usher that we're probably gonna get.
Yeah. Like even some like I want him to go deeper into the Confessions album, like deeper into the Confessions hour,
Mm,
where a couple of like Superstar.
mm,
I want to go deep, but he's not, and I
yeah.
just and he's probably gonna give me try some of this newer stuff, and I really ain't got time for it. Like
Yeah.
I don't. I'll say
Yeah, I don't
this
need
though.
no oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, we're getting that. Oh, we're getting
I
that.
know we are.
I just will say this, and Jay Z's the one putting a lot of this. Sean, you're gonna have to go white soon, dog. I'm just saying, man. He's gonna. I mean, he's messing with it now. I mean, he's about to get through an entire uh, uh, recruiting class right now. If he goes black again, I mean, he is pushing the limits, and I know Taylor's turning it down, and maybe there's an end now because her ass, we know she'll be there. Maybe she performs next year, but he's going to have to go white. I mean,
No,
this is becoming. I mean, he's got to throw a bone, right? I mean, this is where are we at? We're at.
I thought the goal was to inspire change. Ain't that
No,
what
I
they
know
call
what
it?
I know
Ain't
what
that
the
what they
goal
call
is. I
inspire
know it.
inspire change?
I know what it
So
is,
so
but I'm
what
just
Sam
saying
Cook said,
it's gonna be some uprising here. He's got to give him 1 out of 5.
hey, look, you know
In
what?
fact, he's
Nothing
got to get Jelly Roll's ass up here. Hopefully, he shoots up. He's got to get him.
nothing surprises me about this country at this point. But if Usher is too black for you, it's like, you know what I mean? If the white folks get up there and they can't handle Usher,
Nah,
baby,
it ain't
Usher,
Usher
baby,
too black. It's Usher coming up from behind of Rihanna, coming
Rihanna,
up from behind of Dre,
Dr.
Mary
Dre,
J,
yeah.
and Kendrick Lamar, and they're not going to count Eminem as you to trying to soften that blow because Snoop was still out there too. So like they got like they better throw Jay better throw him a bone soon. These people gonna lose their mind. Now, damn it, y'all better find a way. Y'all better get that Katy Perry back up there again. Y'all better find that Charlie Proof or whoever else is out there. Y'all better
See,
give us one.
see, I can get down with that.
I'm with it.
Charlie Puth has written either Usher songs or Trey songs or something like that. Charlie Puth be at it. Yeah, I can get down with that. Met Charlie Puth at the station once, actually. Pretty cool dude.
They're gonna
But yeah,
this.
I'll be with it. I'll be with it. Hey, that is Ron Hughley, Afternoon Drive at Sports Radio 610 and with Arrowhead Pride, my guy. I appreciate you, man.
That was fun. That was fun.
Yeah, man, no doubt, no doubt. Appreciate the time.